When we talk about Boldr watches, we tend to associate the brand with rough titanium watches that are meant to take a beating. To me, they are the only affordable micro brand that fit into that category. And I know some of you will say that RZ also are in there, but their prices are slightly higher in the bracket. That being said, if you have a look at the website, you will see that they have developed and released a few other lineups that are slowly moving away from that preconception that Boldr only do a certain style, like rough titanium watches that are fit for purpose. And they actually ventured into something that is more approachable, like divers and, in this case, California dials. Today we'll be taking a look at their Defender Siana, which is a part of their Safari lineup, which to me looks like the perfect example of the earlier mentioned designs, because at first glance this looks like nothing that you would associate the brand with. Don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but does this still have the Boldr DNA? So let's first get these specs out of the way and the dimensions, and then we'll have a deeper dive into the details. So in terms of dimensions, we have a case diameter of 40 millimeters, a thickness of 12.5 with a flat sapphire crystal. We have lugs of 20 millimeters, a lug to lug of 48, and a weight of 140 grams, sized up to my 6.3 inch wrist. And the movement, NH35, which is perfectly expected for the price point. So the wrist action. On my 6.3 inch wrist, this is slightly below average. This looks and feels quite comfortable actually, but hear me out. It tends to fall on the bone of your wrist if you wear it too loose, but for me this is something that happens more than I would have liked. Now, this is not specifically a negative since the head of the watch is not that heavy, but I do suspect that it has something to do with the bracelet being too thin and puts off the balance a little bit. Now, I know I'm contradicting myself a tiny bit here, but overall the wearing experience is actually quite comfortable. So if you look at it as a whole, the wearing experience is quite nice. I do love the pop of color from that dial, and it does give me a bit of real summery vibe, and I picture myself walking on the beach with this on in shorts. I put my hand in my pocket for some reason. As actually in shorts and a half open shirt. But now coming back to reality and to rainy Ireland and forgetting about beaches for a while, this is still advertised as a tool watch. So the entire finishing on the case and bracelet fully support that. So since we're on the case, let's talk about it. The case has a matte brushed finish with some chamfered edges that adds some character to what would normally be a dull looking surface. Now, dull might be a bit of a strong word, but there is no brushing pattern, so those chamfered edges do spice up the visuals a little bit. And while we're still on the subject of the case, let's talk about that bezel. Unidirectional, 120 clicks. Now, this is according to the website. Has a great coin edge grip with an aluminium insert. Before I say anything else, when I say 120 clicks, that is not actually true, because they're not individual crisp clicks. I've seen this kind of seen this kind of, bezel action with titanium bezel. The action has small mini clicks with inconsistent travel between the actual bigger clicks, if that makes any sense. So it's very solid overall. It aligns perfectly and no backplay, but let's just say I wouldn't rush to start measuring any diving times with this quite yet. Let's have a look at the dial, because in this case, less is more. Well, simple is more. So we have a California dial, which totally works. Don't ask me how or why. It suits the vibrant color and it makes what it's supposed to be a tool watch fun. I personally don't have that much experience with these, but from my perspective, it really livens it up. It takes me back to that beach again on those shorts and that half button shirt and the seagulls and the waves. But again, if we come back, in this particular case, functionality doesn't matter that much anymore, and I can just appreciate the fun design. Now, that being said, We still have perfect legibility, even in weird angles and in bright sun. You have no problem at all reading that dial. And even if you can't read in the Roman numerals or backwards, or if the watch is turned the other way around, because of that California dial. What I'm lacking here is a date function, but this is just a personal preference. And I feel that at the 6, that portion of space there could have been used a bit better, and with the flat marker on the 6, the portion looks a bit empty. Now this is just a minor complaint, nothing bad, but it could have done with a date function. And while we're on the subject of functionality, on a different tone, this is still a 200 meter rated diver, so you need proper lume on those markers to make it functional. And you have plenty of it. BGW9 on the sword style hands and markers, and on the tip of the seconds hand. You have plenty of power with this, and you could even say it lasts for 2 P trips at night. Because let's face it, that's the only action that this watch will see, or the functionality for those P trips at night. And what we're talking about long lasting things, something that will last longer than that lume is definitely the movement. Not the perfect segue, but like mentioned earlier, we have the Seiko NH38 that is more than adequate for the price. Rugged, reliable, and this will last you a very long time before needing a service. In terms of accuracy, I wouldn't be too concerned, as these usually tend to stay within the stated tolerances, and this one is no different. This one is running at plus 9 seconds per day, which is decent, and honestly, I wouldn't think you need more than that. I mean, you'd like it to be accurate and within tolerances, but I wouldn't look at this too close. Typical fashion. Lastly, we get to the bracelet. We have the same finish as the case with push pins to adjust. Very comfortable, and it wraps around the wrist quite nicely. Now, I managed to get a nice fit on my 6.3 inch wrist, but it depends. You might not get the same fit as I do, because the stamped upper clasp only offers 3 holes of micro adjust. We have a nice touch on the whole cracked steel effect on the clasp, and it does tie in with Boldr's whole persona, but again, the clasp lets it down. Not to complain, but nowadays you'd expect an on-the-fly clasp with pretty much everything over $300, since a lot of AliExpress brands offer it for less than that. On a more positive note, a nice addition to that bracelet, and it's becoming more and more popular nowadays, are the quick release spring bars. I had this also on an Artem strap sailcloth, and it actually looks really good, and especially with those straight lugs. But to me, this looks best on a bracelet, or actually best case scenario, either a rubber or, like I mentioned, a sailcloth strap. Draw the line over all this, or under all this, guys, and sort of touch up on the initial question that we had at the start of the video. Does this still have the Boldr DNA? Well, the short answer is yes, but it's a little bit more colorful. California dial makes what would normally be a tool watch into something, or turns it into something more approachable, but still with the capabilities of getting down and dirty. Is the $400 price tag too much? In my opinion, not really, because it's very well made, and Boldr have been around for some time and have a reputable name in the micro brand world. Sure, you can get better specs on AliExpress for the money, but in this case, I wouldn't trade the original design for the specs. So that sums up the video and the review, guys. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think about Boldr as a brand and about the Defender Siana from the Safari lineup. Thank you very much for watching. Click a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, so it would really help me out. If you stick around until the end of the video. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.